Hey everyone, I just got back from the biggest psychedelic conference the world has ever seen in Miami called Wonderland, and I found out more and more institutions are very, very interested in the psychedelic space. Why? Find out now in our latest podcast. All right, this is the Dales Report, and fresh off of a trip in Miami at Wonderland, Miami, Greg McKee, CEO of Tryp Therapeutics, joins me. Greg, how are things?
Chad, good, man. Great to see you. Glad you arrived home after the trip and everything.
Yeah, it was nice to see you. For all the viewers watching, we finally got a chance to meet each other face to face. But before we get into like what happened and what your big takeaway was, how'd you enjoy yourself in Miami, and what'd you think of the overall conference?
You know, it was great to be down in Miami. Of course, you know, kind of in the winter when it's a little bit chillier in the rest of the parts of the States, although not bad here in California, I have to admit. But yeah. I mean, nothing to worry about in terms of nice weather, but great to see everybody, you know, in person. You know, love getting on these different platforms and so forth. It's
yeah.
Great that having to travel, but on the other hand, I do miss meeting people in person. So that was fantastic. I actually flew in a couple days early. I got in and spent the weekend there. Turned out that my Saturday and my Sunday were jam packed because the whole point of these conferences is not necessarily to see all the great programming is there, but frankly, just because all the key people you need to meet, they're all there. And so it's an opportunity to get some FaceTime with people. So it was fantastic.
That's exactly what I got too. Did you say a little chilly and you're in La Jolla, California? Come on, Greg.
I gotta pretend that the weather's not so great here. I mean, if you could look out my window right now, you would know I was lying through my teeth. It's beautiful.
That's like inviting somebody over, cooking them a steak, and they don't like the way you cooked it. My gosh, here I'm in Canada. I got to get you up here, right?
There you go.
Anyway, I guess the first question, what was what were you focusing on while you were down there? And what was the big takeaway from a couple of days that while you were down there? What was the overall environment like?
Yeah, so, you know, it was great because there was such a diverse set of individuals there from the industry, right? So obviously it was a psychedelic focused conference. And one of the first times we've been able to get together and gather as a community. And just the diversity of different types of people, you know, that were there. There was researchers, there's analysts, there's obviously companies, there were, you know, people that were looking at alternative applications. We were in the VIP lounge on, I think it was Tuesday, the second day of the conference. Yeah. They kicked us out because they were going to do a meditation, session, and God bless them. It was, good for them. And so the wide diverse group of, people. Our main focus, frankly, was to get in front of analysts, investors, bankers. For the most part, that was like the key, purpose for our being there, which was great. And definitely some big takeaways. Obviously, boy, not to just cut to the chase, but that Compass data, man, that was the big kaboom, I would say, during the whole thing. But
what was your take on that? Because I do know, and a lot of people I've spoken to, it's been, I guess, mixed feedback. Some people say, like you said, very, very encouraging to see the overall direction. Others were hoping for a little bit better. But what was your takeaway?
Yeah, my takeaway was a number of different things. First of all, out the gate, it was great data, right? I mean, 233 patients, 3-arm study with essentially a control with the 1 milligram dose. They tested 2 other doses that they thought would be active, the 10 milligram and the 25 milligram. They identified that 25 milligrams is the right dose, right? That was significant. The durability, was there, though. That was kind of one little ding that some people were looking for more durability data, but you can't necessarily
one dosage though. One dosage.
Yes,
like that's it.
Dose. That's right. Yeah, one single dose, with psychotherapy combination, right, which makes sense that worked. I thought it was fantastic, right, and I think this is a great step forward, for the industry. And I heard all sorts of comments about, well, gee, now we're not quite sure how they'll design the phase 3 and what will they use for a control and, the durability question. But, I think you got to look at it on its face value of what they were actually able to do. Nobody's done a study this large yet to date, other than that, right? I mean, come on, full stop there. Second of all, it worked, and it worked twice as well in the 25 milligram group than in the 10 milligram group. So that was fantastic. And also, frankly, the side effects were generally mild. And if you looked at those carefully, it was sort of fascinating that some of the quote unquote side effects were issues that you'd expect these patients to have anyway. They're treatment resistant depression, TRD patients that are having suicidal ideation. I mean,
Right.
I think it's kind of hard to tease out and say that isn't that already a side effect of the disease? So
Yeah.
we'll let the FDA and the company kind of sort that out, but that was good. And the dropout rate, if you look carefully, actually the dropout rate was higher in the lower doses. So that's a
Right.
good sign as well, right?
Yes.
So I thought it overall was fantastic.
Think about this in comparison when I don't want to sway people left or right, but when you think of what the feedback, the endpoints were in comparison to SSRIs that you need to take every single day in comparison to one dosage, to me, that was the big eye opener for me. And if this is just the beginning, the word on the street, especially down at the conferences, is that more and more institutions are very, very interested within this space. And I do know a lot of the time psychedelics gets compared to, say, cannabis. There is no comparison right now. There's a lot of interest and focal point on psychedelics. Did you find that?
I think that's a really great point, right? That now, so both, biotech focus, like really serious, large drug development funds, as well as frankly, the next step will be the pharma industry broadly, right?
Right.
Are beginning to take notice because there's these well-controlled studies that are being completed with really significant data that everybody on sort of that side of the ledger understands and is anticipating. So I think that's a really good point. And that will continue we'll continue to move forward as we get more data similar to this.
Your extensive background in Big Pharma prior to being with Tryp Therapeutics, what would you say? Look, there were some great endpoints that were announced with Cybin and with Compass. Clearly, the market didn't respond the way I think a lot of people were hoping to, obviously, this week. But did you hear it all? Knowing that you have like I said, extensive background in the Big Pharma world, I'm hearing more and more, yes, they're going to get in, but it could happen a lot sooner than what people anticipate.
I didn't hear that specifically, but I mean, there was definitely a few things that come to mind, right? So the first thing was I was really shocked at the market's response, especially to Compass. Cybin, I sort of understand a little bit better, right? That was a slightly different analysis, but to stay focused on Compass, selling off on the news is not atypical, right? That happens, but to have such an aggressive sell-off on that back of the data was surprising. So I would think that now over the next few weeks, they'll begin to rebuild that position of kind of where the company was going. In terms of what's happening with pharma, I think that this is a great stake in the ground. This is exactly the kind of data they're going to be looking for. So I didn't specifically, get wind of companies maybe, taking an earlier look than anticipated. I didn't see a lot of pharmaceutical companies there, but there is a very large healthcare conference coming up, Healthcare Week, as it's now being known, formerly known as the JP Morgan Conference, formerly known as the Hamburg and Quiz Congress, for those that were around at the time when that was created. But that conference that could be an opportunity, or bio right in June could be another opportunity where Big Pharma begins to take a look. And for sure, this kind of well-controlled, blinded data in large numbers of patients will be exactly what the pharmaceutical companies are looking for to start making decisions on whether or not they want to get involved in the psychedelic drug sector.
Your goal, like you said, was to get down there, meet with bankers, to continue to, develop your story. So is mission accomplished? You said that you did meet with people. So what was their big takeaway when meeting with you?
Yeah, I would say mission definitely accomplished. We had a lot of great sessions with a wide variety of different individuals on that front, and the feedback was, quite positive. There's a lot of investors that are looking for, additional stories to get involved in, they want to get involved in companies that are looking at new therapeutic areas, beyond mood disorders. And I think they're also looking for, legitimate teams that have, solid drug development strategies, all of which I think we can deliver through our vehicle here at Tryp.
Did they find it fascinating knowing that you're in the psychedelic space, but tend to focus on a lot different compounds, to say, for example, than the rest of the industry?
We definitely, we get a lot of kudos for looking at other therapeutic indications outside of mood disorders, for sure. I think we're one of the few, and there's more on the way, which I think is perfectly is great, right? It's fantastic. There's going to be other companies potentially behind us that are looking at these other areas, right? We want to see the full potential of psychedelics, unleashed and out in the marketplace to help support patients in need. So we definitely get kudos for that. I think there's also now companies are beginning, and analysts and investors and bankers are beginning to focus on what are the other things that need to be developed that would be innovative. And I think that novel formulations with novel routes of administration, so something outside of oral delivery, something where there's a much more controlled experience, I think is going to be becoming much more top of mind. And I feel like we're very well poised to be part of that conversation as one of the companies, pressing on novel formulations that can really help patients with a better delivery methodology.
It's good to know. Moving forward then, we're on the verge of obviously tax law season. That's probably going to take place in the next couple of weeks. But as we start to transition into 2022, to give people, I guess, hope within this industry that are either currently investing or looking to invest, a company like yourself, are you looking to raise more money, and do you see a lot of that capital happening once we kick off into 2022?
As with any drug development company, there'll be many companies, in the sector that will raise capital. We, had some questions about that actually earlier today in a call I was on from an investor, trying to understand when we were going to be able to get to revenue. It's an interesting conversation because that's, it takes a while, obviously. And one of the things that, frankly, you spend less time focusing on. Our focus is very much on generating clinical data to eventually then put us in a position where we can partner with large pharmaceutical companies who then will underwrite programs and provide upfront payments, milestones, royalties, and that type of cash flow, right? So, but I think that, until then, a lot of us in the industry will be looking to raise capital, over time at appropriate time points, at good valuations as we make additional, progress. And I would anticipate that as we, all kind of turn into the first quarter of 2022, head into Healthcare Week up in San Francisco in January, as we sort of press into the partnering conferences, I think you're going to see a lot more activity in terms of raising capital and more progress in the clinic as we press it. I'd underscore that one of the other parts of this sector within drug development, specifically psychedelic drug development, is this sector is moving so quickly, right? I mean, that was
Isn't it?
Thematically something I picked up on quite a bit in Miami, is that time is of the essence. I think that everybody in that was there and everybody in this space understands the importance of moving, not only moving in the right direction, but also moving quickly so that we can really add value for these patients and create another tool for the physicians to use to treat these patients.
It's and as you said, that's the conversation I had too, where FDA, Health Canada, the data obviously has proven to be very valuable because it's very, very promising. But knowing the times that we're in, we were in an epidemic with mental health, but obviously when COVID has hit, it's only fast-tracked it. But that's another encouraging sign. Yes, it works, but this could transition to something a lot quicker, knowing the current times that we're living in. So all in all, obviously a good time. And sounds like I just booked my next trip to San Francisco come January by the sounds of things.
I think that would be a great spot, for you to be in, and learn a lot more about what's going on. All of us are going to learn a ton more in terms of the progress everyone's making in this industry. But I think that 2022 is going to be a very exciting year for psychedelic development companies.
Yeah. So as much as it's been a roller coaster ride this week, as far as the markets, the way they performed, last thing, just if you wanted to get a clear message out to psychedelic investors and to Tryp Therapeutic investors, all is well. This will take time, but you think this is going to be an incredible 2022 for the industry? I
think that, investors have been incredibly patient. This year, they all kind of had a peak right around kind of the first quarter, the February timeframe. And it's been a little bit of a challenge, to say the least, for some companies and some investors. But, this and that's kind of early day. This is still early days. I would say kind of last year and the early part of February of this year were an early peak, but then the future peaks in terms of what happens with valuations and value creation is going to well outdo that, I believe, as we continue to generate more data and make more progress in the clinic with these therapeutic compounds.
It's good stuff. Well, listen, great seeing you and the team, obviously, in Miami. Good things on the horizon, to say the least. And we appreciate you quickly checking in with us and giving us a quick recap. But let's keep in touch.
Great to see you again, Chad. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks, Greg.